Well, hello everybody. Welcome again to our Protractor webinar series. I'm Doug Cresci. I'll be doing your presentation today, and we've got Jeff, Alan, and I think Jim Ball in the background here. When it comes to questions and things, they'll be participating too. So first of all, we really appreciate you guys taking away from your busy days to join us. Hopefully everybody can walk away with something. And today we're going to talk basically about margin management, matrices, and matrix rules. So that everybody understands how this works, if you haven't been on one of the webinars before, our webinar is going to include 45 minutes of instruction overview, and then we're going to take the last 15 minutes to answer questions. A little bit of a change from our previous meeting. We found a ton of great questions coming in, but we would like to restrict the questions to the topics that we're going to cover today. If you have features that you'd like to see implemented, the standard procedure, go ahead and send those in to the support team, and we do review those on a regular basis, so please send any feature requests in to the support team. I just want to mention also the webinars are posted on the help system. So all recordings, all handouts are all available. I'm just going to try and do this and get out to the help system right quick and show you guys. If you just go out to our help, our online help system, you're going to find a section labeled webinars, and within there we'll be posting the different webinars, and if you open these up, all the handout materials are in here, along with the recordings down at the very bottom. So for anybody who missed any of this, or if you'd like any of your staff to participate, they can always get to that. So let's dive in. So our agenda for today is going to cover margin thresholds. Now, often I refer to this as your guide to good profit, but essentially we're saying the margin thresholds are the best avenue we have to ensure that you achieve your profit targets. Another item we'll cover today is margin matrix, and this is how you'll set up consistent prices for your supplied material items and sublet services. We're going to talk about the margin matrix rules, which is where we establish the application rules for how the margin matrix will be applied. And then we're going to talk about a new feature to the software, which is the catalog labor matrix, where you can go in and establish factors or percentages for when you use the labor guides within the software. Okay, so today's topic, we're going to start with margin thresholds. Just a brief overview. A margin threshold defines the acceptable gross profit margin, and there is an acceptable low and high for your materials, sublet, your labor, and service packages within each service category. Another new feature we're going to add to today's meeting, and just so everybody knows it's a little bit new to us, is we're going to present some poll questions, which are going to be questions that are prompted on your screen, and if you guys will just answer those, it gives us a little idea of how many people are using some of these features and how they apply. Okay, so let's take a look at the margin thresholds and how they work. So within the software itself, I've got a little work order. For those of you that were on our webinar 2 weeks ago, we went through a lot of things on the catalog labors and things of that nature. So I've got that same work order up here. Here's the scenario. A customer has come in. They have presented us that they have a cooling system problem, so we've recorded that. And our technician has gone in and completed the inspection with all the entries. We've added our service packages from the inspection sheet, which is identified with the little bundle on the far right. So you can see all of my jobs are on here. I then ran through my catalog lookup to look up all my part and labor applications that are in the system, and I'm now ready to present an estimate to my customer for $1,770. Before I do that, it might be a good idea that we just double check ourselves and make sure we have hit our target profits on all these items. To do that, every work order that you create is going to have an analysis tab I'm pointing to on the lower part of the screen. And under the analysis, what's going to happen here is the software is going to analyze each line on the work order. Each part line, each labor line, and then at the bottom of each of these is going to be your service package total, which includes the parts and labor. Looking at this, what we're identifying is the margin thresholds that I have set for my parts, labor, packages under each of my service categories. Wherever I have achieved or fallen within my threshold between the low and between the high, my profit margin is going to show in black. That's an indicator that I am within my threshold. If I have exceeded my threshold, that profit number is going to show in green, which indicates that I have exceeded my threshold. The bad thing in here is when you see red. Red identifies that I have not met the low threshold. Wherever I see a red number, in this case you're seeing on my water pump, I'm saying how much I'm invoicing my customer, what my costs were, my profit dollars, and that allows me to measure the profit margin. So I have not achieved my threshold. All we're going to do is indicate here that you did not achieve your goal. One final note on this screen is going to be wherever any line item has not achieved its goal, we're going to have a summary down at the very bottom. Some people simply go in and look at the summary. They don't look at all the detail. So the summary is going to indicate to me that somewhere up above there is a line item entry that did not achieve the desired profit. So this indicator in the summary just indicates somewhere up above something has not achieved the goal. Great opportunity for everybody to take a quick minute to look at this. Make sure you're at least seeing greens and blacks. If you see a red, it would be your choice to go back and make a correction to that item. So this is how the margin thresholds act within the software to guide you to your good profit. Okay.
So Doug, we just have a poll question here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to throw it up. So if everybody can just respond to the poll question, we'll hold it open for about 30 seconds here to get some responses in. Right, so it looks like we have about 90% of the people who have voted, and I'll just share those results. Doug, are you able to see them on your screen?
I do not see them, Jeff. I'm sorry.
You have to open up the polls tab. But anyway, the results were about 81% of people use the analysis screen and about 20% don't.
Okay, guys, let's move on and let's do a quick review. So what we just talked about on the margin thresholds at the work order using the analysis tab, essentially we're wanting to make sure that everything ends up as either a black percentage or a green percentage. Red percentage indicates that the acceptable low has not been achieved, okay? It would be up to you to go back and make any changes to that. The next area we want to talk about is actually going to be the margin setup. So how do we set these thresholds up? So let's move back to the software. To do your setup from the main menu, the main ribbon, you're going to select Setup. We're then going to walk down the tree, and there are two ways that we set up the thresholds. One way, well actually all of them are going to be set up under service categories. So if you're going to go in and create a new service category, just simply give it a name, and then from the Details tab, you'll select Edit Threshold. You can then go in and identify your acceptable low gross profit margin and your acceptable high gross profit margin, which will establish the threshold. That can be done for labor, materials, sublet entries, and then your service package, which is the combination of all three items. Okay, so this is if you're creating a new service category. You also have the ability to edit an existing service category threshold by doing an edit, going to Detail, and simply making edits here. But the easier way, if you wanted to make an edit, is simply click on Margin Thresholds in the left pane. You'll then be presented with the list by service, or excuse me, by profit center. So if you have more than one profit center, select the profit center. On the screen, you have the ability to organize this list by the name. Simply click on the name, ascending or descending, by the type, by the low, by the high. So you can look at it. You can look at this any way you want. And another way to do it, which is a way that I usually do it, is simply go in and identify that category, and you'll be presented with your thresholds for that category. Whichever one, if you wanted to make a change, you'd simply select Edit. I don't know why anybody would want to do it, but obviously we have a delete. If you want to get rid of your threshold, you certainly can delete it. So simply get in, set up the thresholds to your liking, and then your system will automatically start monitoring your profit margins and give you feedback on that. Okay, so back to the slideshow. Let's do just a quick review. Okay, margin threshold setup. Create a margin threshold for a new service category. Search, edit, or delete an existing threshold for an existing service category. The last thing I want to talk about with margin thresholds is probably a common area in our industry where people maybe get confused because there's so many different avenues. So I want to reference this statement. For a labor threshold to be accurate, a technician rate is required if the labor margin threshold acceptable low and high is set to any other value than 100%. So if you are costing your labor for analysis purposes, you will want to get an employee technician rate in. The rates are set up on the employee details, and let's just take a quick look at that so everybody would know. Under setup again, we simply go down to employees. I normally only focus on technicians because it's the technicians' rates that are going to be calculated on the analysis screen. And if we look at the technician record, all we're going to want to do here is enter a rate. This will be your hourly cost against the labor rate that is being billed. So when we take the cost against the sale, we obviously can then measure a profit. We can get into all kinds of discussions on the rates. I'll just briefly mention there are two standard types. One is called unloaded, which would simply be the hourly rate that you pay the technician. Some people use what's called a loaded rate, which would be the employee's hourly pay rate plus benefits. So talk to your groups and things and get involved, but if you're looking to get accuracy on a costing rate using the margin thresholds, you'll want a rate, hourly rate put in for your technician. Okay? So good. We'll of course have some questions on this going forward, but let's just wrap this up by saying margin thresholds have no relationship to setting any sell prices. Margin thresholds only provide the ability to view, analyze, and monitor profit margins after cost and sell prices have been entered. So that'll close us off on the thresholds. Hopefully you guys can take advantage of it. Looks like most everybody already is.